It's My Planet Rocks on Planet Rock, and my guest this week, simply put, is A Nameless Ghoul from the mystical band Ghost. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, before we get on to the band, the look now, and how it all came about, the band have got various styles, if you like. You can hear the different influences. Going back to your growing up, what were your influences? What got you into rock music?
I got into rock music because of my older brother, who was 13 years senior. So, when I was a little kid, he was a teenager. And obviously, it was a very sort of teenage influenced home. My mom was very, very liberal and maybe too liberal sometimes. So my brother was very caretaking, and sometimes he was very good at it. I only remember the good parts, but sometimes he took me to parties and concerts and stuff like that I really enjoyed, obviously, but might not be, ideal for a 3-4-year-old. But I liked it. I liked it because, you had 17-year-old girls liking my looks or whatever.
Yeah, I see it.
So, I mean, he was an avid music fan. He liked a lot of things. He was, I guess, primarily he was some sort of punk rock guy. But he dove into so many different things. And unfortunately, he lost his father, at the same, early 80s. So because of that, he had a little bit of dough.
Yeah.
So he bought a lot of records and a lot of books, and he was very culturally sort of inclined. And I always, went with him in town, and he took me to record stores, or took me to records. He went to record stores, and I went with him. And one day, he went in as always and bought a bunch of records. And when we got home, he put them on, and I was under his supervision, so I was with him. And one of those records was "Love Gun" by Kiss.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, and I instantly fell for how cool this band looked, and that they were surrounded by very, very busty women.
Was it the track "Love Gun" that did it for you?
I think so, yeah. That's one of the first memories I have of that record, because I thought it sounded completely overpowering.
Yeah.
And I fell instantly, and he was like, "You can have this record. You like it more than I do." So that was my first record.
And here it is, Kiss, "Love Gun." It's My Planet Rocks on Planet Rock. Kiss, "Love Gun" on Planet Rock. You're listening to My Planet Rocks. Our guest tonight is A Nameless Ghoul from the anonymous band Ghost. So were Kiss a band which were an influence on what you were to become in the current band? Because obviously Ghost are clearly influenced by theatrics and masks. So yeah. I'm guessing Kiss would have been a big influence back then.
They were, and I think to a certain degree they still are. I mean, they made such a huge imprint, and just it's ironic looking back, because this was early 80s. I would assume that this is 84, something like that. And I know this because we lived in a certain apartment that we moved out of 1984. So I remember it because of that. And at the same time, even though he was his passion was basically punk. He liked Sex Pistols, Clash, and Damned, and a lot of that was, and a lot of his friends were punks. So, but he also liked a lot of contemporary music, and in Sweden we had this magazine called OK, which was this. I mean, looking back on it now, it's almost surreal, because in OK you could read about all the heavy metal bands, all the series, all the pop bands. So you had Jamal, and you turn it over, it was Iron Maiden, and then it was like a big pinup picture of Samantha Fox. And then you had a Venom poster, and you turn it around, and it was like Paul Young.
Yeah.
And it was very, very, very diverse.
Just thrown together.
Yeah. And one thing that was obviously very in 1984, which also got my attention because of my brother having these magazines and it was on the radio and all that, was Twisted Sister.
Oh, yeah, on their farewell tour this year.
Yeah, but Stay Hungry, I got that. My brother gave it to me. And another record that came out that was from the same era that I liked a lot was Shout at the Devil.
Motley Crue.
Yeah,
Another
Motley
band
Crue.
with makeup and theatrics.
Yeah, and Wasp.
Ah, another band with theatrics and makeup. There's a theme here.
That's the irony, because later on I went to pursue a lot of other different musical styles, but at the end, we're not very far from neither of these four bands that I just mentioned, which is kind of funny. Shock rock.
Shock rock, yes, great term. Here's Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil on My Planet Rocks at Planet Rock. Shout at the Devil, Motley Crue on My Planet Rocks. My guest this week is A Nameless Ghoul from the band Ghost. Now, if you were brought up in England, Canada, the US, Australia, there were loads of bands you could gravitate to from your area. Growing up in Sweden, or maybe as a teenager, were you ever drawn to the Sweden scene? I know Europe, the Electric Boys, bands like that, because there weren't that many around?
Europe was hard to miss. And I mean, at the time, the Final Countdown was on the radio everywhere. I was like 5, 6 years old, so of course I liked them. Yeah. And I still, to this day, hold them quite dearly, because I think that Joe Tempest is a phenomenal songwriter. And sometimes I think that, historically they can be sometimes a little bit discredited just because they had that poodle look. And they are obviously a little bit sort of typical.
Yeah,
I mean,
cliche.
They turn into like a little bit of a cliche, but their songs are enormously strong. I mean, they were a really, really good band. But one of the first Swedish bands that I really liked, ironically, and that was because of OK. And obviously nowadays, I mean, knowing better, what I didn't know at that time was that a photographer at OK was good friends with a local band in Stockholm called Candlemass.
Oh, yes, the friar, the guy who looked a bit like Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. Messiah Marcolini.
That's it, yeah.
And so around, 89, I would say, they were covered in this magazine. Not like huge reportages, but it was like every now and then there was like a little report from the festival, and it was an interview with them, and then it was a little article, and I picked up on that band immediately. Like, what is this? They look so cool, and they became one of my absolute favorite bands of all time, Candlemass. Because I read about them in OK. Wow. I thought they were huge. Little did I know that they were like an underground doom metal band from Stockholm.
Right. We've got some classic Candlemass after the break, when we'll be back with Nameless Ghoul from Ghost, talking more about the band's music, their signature satanic look, and mysterious frontman and leader, Papa Emeritus.
Yeah, no, but and underneath he's, commando. Yeah. So if he ever would take a fall into the pit, you would see two white legs sticking up in a little...
Yeah. Oh. Look like a milk chocolate Easter egg.
Yeah.
Welcome back to My Planet Rocks. Our guest tonight is A Nameless Ghoul from the band Ghost. So Ghost are a kind of, well, I guess you'd say they're kind of a concept band with your satanic look and anonymous characters. In the very beginning, when the band was formed, whose idea was it for any kind of imagery like that? Because the look... Now, I'd read that it wasn't about getting attention, it was about stripping you of identity to make you nameless. Is that right?
Yeah, the idea was, obviously now we've become a commercial entity, but in the early beginnings, it was actually very aesthetic, for aesthetic reasons, and because at especially as sort of the build-up that led up to the first album, the idea was possibly record one album and become, a band that maybe do a few festivals every year, go down to Roadburn and do a Holy Mass and, then disappear.
For the early gigs, when you're in let's just say the venues that don't have vast dressing rooms,
right?
you've got nowhere really to change. How did you keep it a secret? Because I guess the illusion's gone if everyone can see the Nameless Ghouls in human form and Papa getting changed. How did you manage to keep them separate in these venues that didn't have the facilities that you could hide in?
We became very, very obnoxious prima donnas and demanded our own dressing rooms.
That was the way forward.
We've blown it so many times. It's so hard, especially in the early days when we came to festivals, and there was always someone who just like accidentally opened up our door like, oh, I'm not supposed to see this, right? Huh, click.
Yeah, of course, the internet age.
Yeah.
It was easy for Kiss in the 70s.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Part of the intention with the band of being, like, nameless or faceless or, you know, these just beings on stage was... my first time being in London was with my mom coming here when I was 13. And two things that we did that really, really made a big impression on me was seeing Phantom of the Opera and Cats. And, you know, as a 13-year-old, going to Cats is very interesting because of the cats.
Yeah. Feline affection.
Yes. And it was a bit with that background. I had the idea that I wanted, you know, as an attendee at a ghost show, you would have a similar feeling of not knowing.
Mm.
And that would in turn be a turn on, I guess.
Yeah. Why a demonic Roman cardinal with loads of faceless, what looked like, could be phantoms from Phantom of the Opera? Why a cardinal, a demonic one, as opposed to clowns or cats or car mechanics with masks on? Why the religious aspect?
Right now, I'm picturing, just because I know the other guys in the band, I picture us in those cat suits, which would have been a turn off. No, because I come from an extreme sort of metal background, where obviously the devil and sort of diabolical symbolism and everything that comes with it, pop cultural Satanism, is ever present. And as the first songs were written with Ghost, it felt very, very natural that this is going to be, in quotation here, like super satanic approach band in this sort of classic satanic panic style. And nowadays, obviously, when we have a slightly wider appeal than, you know, the metal circuit, I'm beginning to understand how seeing a band like ours is a little bit of an eye opener, I guess, because it's so odd. Whereas, you know, for me, I mean, I've been dabbling with diabolicism in one way or another ever since I was like 10. I mean, Shout of the Devil was, when I was 4. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's such a home turf. As I tell my kids, the devil is our friend, you know, the monsters are our friends.
Embrace the darkness, it is always there.
Yeah.
We'll talk having wide appeal to a mass audience with Ghost shortly. Pantera, Metallica, I mean, they were like godfathers, if you like, of metal. Were you into that kind of scene? The commercial sort of edge of thrash stroke metal?
I was, or still am, I am a huge Metallica fan.
Which era? All of them?
Yeah, my interest it sort of ends pretty strict at 1993.
Right. So
unfortunately, I hate to say that, but I'm one of those sort of naysayers. I think that they were absolutely the greatest band on the planet at the time, and I mean I still think that they're every time that I sort of fall into them again. I mean, listen to a record, I have to listen to everything. And then I have to see every film again. And then I have to read 3 books. I'm very much a fanboy of them.
Of Wolf and Man on My Planet Rocks with A Nameless Ghoul from the band Ghost. Now, I first saw you be just over 2 years ago supporting Alice in Chains in Leeds. Mm-hmm. And I can honestly say for 10 minutes, my mouth was open. Because I'm like, what am I seeing? And it wasn't so much the imagery of the masks and Papa. It was the music. that was coming out, because that was what was shocking me the most, because the image of the band is death metal, doom metal, and then for me, I'm listening to, it sounded like influenced by Black Sabbath, The Doors, I'm hearing what sound like bits of ABBA, you know, there was just this eclectic commercial mixture, but the imagery was just, wow, this should be sounding like King Diamond or Nuclear Assault or some of these sort of early thrash bands. And I'm guessing that is the reactions from many people who've seen the group for the first time.
Yeah, I've heard that many times. That, you know, I thought you were going to be a Cookie Monster band.
Cookie Monster band. Yeah. So how, with your background, which is thrash and doom and death metal, etc., how did you end up being such a musical band? Was that a conscious thing?
Well, if we rewind a little, when I was let's say 8, something like that. Yeah, my brother was on one hand, and on the other hand, I had my mother, who was, you know, she was born in the 40s. Obviously, the whole 60s was her era.
Yeah, Woodstock and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I got a lot of music from her: Beatles, Pink Floyd, Stones, Hendrix, Joplin. So towards the end of the 80s, two of my favorite bands in 1989, except for like Candlemass and King Diamond actually, was Rolling Stones and Guns N' Roses.
Right.
I absolutely worshipped Rolling Stones with that whole 60s thing. And, you know, it coincided also with me starting playing guitar. So I very quickly got melodic. Fast forward through adolescence and teenage and all that, which was in practice, I was doing death metal, but I was still listening to a lot of different things. I mean, I've always been like a fan of Bad Religion and a lot of melodic music, as well as I've always had like a little ear towards the radio and just contemporary whatever. When Ghost sort of popped in my head, it was with the intention of sounding like a sort of a proto-metal band. Like, imagine if you were in your late 20s, but it was 1976 instead.
Yeah.
So it was almost a game in your head. You're like, if you write a really heavy riff, touching on death metal, how would it sound? And I'm excluding what I know. I'm excluding what I know about Possessed or Necrophagia or Autopsy or Morbid Angel. And then, it's sort of, but if you can combine this with like AOR choruses and, you know, multiple like harmonies and just make it like melodic too, that is how, you know, you got that mixture. And all of a sudden there was a recipe there that felt there was a fluency to it.
Well, before we talk breaking through in the UK with what was effectively the covers EP, which really brought you into the mainstream over here, let's play a Stones track. Which one? Your choice. It doesn't have to be a classic. You can go deep if you want.
One song that I really like, which is always uplifting, is Let's Spend the Night Together.
The Stones and Let's Spend the Night Together. It's My Planet Rocks. It's Planet Rock with my guest this week. It's A Nameless Ghoul from the band Ghost. So the EP came out a couple of years ago, the covers EP, and if you have Ghost, it was huge in Radio Land in this country, and it really brought the band to attention across the mainstream. And I remember reading about the band, and it was at that point, it would be about probably 3 years ago. It's like, Papa changes. There's a first incarnation, there's a second one, and now we're on a third one. There were two things which always struck me. One, what was the thinking behind wanting the change? What was the symbolism or the significance of it? And I've always wondered, is it the same human who's played two of them or all of them?
I can't tell you that. No, well, the thinking was, since we knew already very early that having this imagery with the possibility of us making more records is going to seriously paint us into a corner. So we figured that in order for this to sort of feel like it's changing, we need to really come up with eras and themes in order to make it interesting. I mean, it's obviously, it's premeditated, it's thought through, It's sort of strategic. You know, obviously, there isn't a day when we are not wishing, for the sake of practicality, that we were just a normal band, in a way, because it's so much easier just to let your face do the aging, you know. But the attention span of the world right now is so short. So we also knew that one thing that will probably aid people to understand and cling on to what we do is to quickly create nostalgia by having eras.
Yeah.
That
First,
way.
second, third.
Yeah.
As it is at the moment. So there'll be a fourth on the next album?
Yes.
So would that be the theme for all albums or all productions? There'll be a different pupper?
Yeah. That's the point. And because, it's proved to be working, because people are very much clinging on to, I like the first more, I like the second more. And as crowds got more vivid and bigger, we felt that it might be well worth the risk of having a third papa who's actually wearing pants, who's able to, I don't know, go down to the crowd or maneuver, yeah. Because as much as sort of papa looks cool, but after, if you know,
it's not practical.
No, it's not. No, it's very unpractical. We're surprised that he hasn't killed himself,
hyperventilated
over the years. Yeah, no, but and underneath he's commando.
Yeah.
So if he ever would take a fall into the pit,
wow,
you would see two white legs sticking up in a little.
Yeah.
Oh.
Look like a milk chocolate Easter egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great in photos, not so great for sort of stage maneuverability and that kind of thing. You're not going to do a Kiss at some point and think, do you know what? It's just as unmask and just have a couple of years of what Kiss did in 1983.
We have been completely accepting the idea of being revealed ever since we had our first record out, because we thought that it's just a matter of 2 shows and then someone will here they are, there you go. And now 5-6 years later, it's still sort of uncertain, which is to our surprise. And we want to differentiate between being masked and anonymous. And this is because of several reasons. Because, A, we don't feel very anonymous, because usually after a show, there's always people outside our bus, and we always sign things, and we always hang out and all that. We don't take pictures, but we don't cut people off or shy away from meeting people face to face. But we will never do Ghost officially without masks.
It won't be like Kiss, Lick It Up.
No, for the same reason I don't want to see Phantom of the Opera with their normal street clothes.
Yeah, jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense. We don't promise to have side projects where we will be anonymous and masked. And if that is a problem, tough.
Well, in the final part, before we talk the Grammy and the immediate future, Pink Floyd, you said, were an influence, a band that have got best part of 40 plus years of material. What should we play from them?
Set the controls for the heart of the sun.
Wow, that is deep. I don't think anyone's ever asked for that Pink Floyd track.
Careful with that axe, Eugene. Yeah.
Here it is on Planet Rock. Pink Floyd on My Planet Rocks here on Planet Rock. My guest is A Nameless Ghoul from Ghost this week. So the Grammys, I mean, often in this country we talk about how rock of any form is ignored at commercial ceremonies. Did you think you would get nominated for Best Metal Performance, let alone win?
No. We knew that possibly if we sort of stayed in there long enough, a nomination might happen.
Yeah.
Such a big part of our operation is American. We have an American management. We have an American label. We tour in America a lot. So we're in this sort of L.A. That's our base, in L.A. And
you're in their eyesight. They're in their lives more.
Exactly. Usually they go for very, very commercial things. We weren't really aware of our commercialism or exactly how commercial we were until this record came out. Because before Meliora, we didn't really have any airplay in America. And when we finally had the nomination, that alone felt like, okay, I guess we've made it, because we're not gonna get further than this. Because usually, the committee is 5 figures of people within the entertainment industry, and they are gonna vote for whatever they know. So we thought that, well, they probably don't know about us. So we honestly didn't think that we were gonna win.
But you did win, and you were there as well.
Yes.
You picked up. Did that unnerve some people who didn't know you, because Papa's there and what I now call the Paris Mime outfit with the gloves, and I saw some pictures.
The Dead Astaire outfit.
The Dead Astaire. Okay, yeah, that works. Yeah. And I saw some pictures. I remember thinking, wow, the pop world and the country world must be looking at this, who have no idea who Ghost is, thinking, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Well, Toto, we were surprised that so many people at that awards ceremony actually knew who we were. There was so many people coming up to us wanting to take a photo and autographs, and people that sounds prejudiced, but people from completely different other music styles, completely different age, completely cultural background, that you think that, how do these people like us?
Yeah.
I mean, we're a doom rock band from Linköping, goddammit.
So this album, Meloria, is probably coming to nearing the end of the cycle. He is the single out in the UK at the moment, which, and again, it's one of them, when you see the band that's singing, it's like mouth open. What now? What's the plans for the rest of 2016?
Touring.
Non-stop through this year, pretty much, recording?
Right now, we have pretty much 1 year left of touring. So
that's extensive.
Yeah. No, it's going to come in sort of portions, which it's going to sort of unveil as we go. But basically, now we're doing this tour. We're going to take basically this tour to America, do a spring run, festivals in the summer, and out of which one or a couple this summer is a little bit special, because we're one of the bigger acts on Hellfest in France. Right. And for that show, we're going to bring in a completely different production. And as we're doing that for Hellfest, we're going to take that on tour in the fall.
So as the stages get bigger, the theatrics will get bigger, is the theme, I'm guessing?
That's the idea, yeah. So,
well, Mr. Ghoul, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for bringing the Ghost story to Planet Rock. I think the future's bright, certainly in this country. You're saying you're predominantly an American-influenced band from management and playing a lot there, but from this album, from If You Have Ghosts to Here's, I think the venues will get bigger in this country as well for the various touring cycles. So we will no doubt see you over the coming years on various cycles with Papa the 4th, 5th, 6th, right through to, I don't know, there could be a Papa the 23rd.
I cringe. Right. Possibly, yeah.
Nameless Ghoul, it has been a mysterious but amazing pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in.